Welcome to the Big Brother 22 Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Armstrong, and this is the podcast where we rate the players every single week from 1 to 10 based on how well they're doing in the game. I'm your host, Aaron Armstrong. Once again, joining me this week is Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited for this triple eviction coming up. I kind of wish it was already happening, and I wish there was even more people being evicted. But, you know, this is going to be the last week we rank 3 of the players, so kind of interesting.
True. Very true.
Yeah. Well, it's always funny after the double when all of a sudden it just seems like it's like it gets the list gets small, and now it's going to be even smaller. So yay for us.
Very true. All right. Also with me today is Brent. How you doing, Brent?
I'm doing great. For those of you who are watching on the video version of this podcast, I am traveling. I'm at my sister's. My nephew is, he has a piano recital on Wednesday that I will be going to, social distancing with masks and everything, but we're going to it. And my sister is a homeschooler, so she teaches in this room, and it is the perfect room to podcast it.
Are you gonna teach us some lessons?
Yeah, I'm gonna get on the blackboard. I'm gonna put my scores right over here on the blackboard, Taryn. You'll see.
The new paddle.
All right. Well, there's plenty to talk about this week, even though there's not a lot to talk about in terms of what's actually happening this week. We have a lot of speculation that we can do about the triple eviction. I imagine that's where we're going to spend a lot of time. But just to recap what's been happening this week, we did see Cody win the HOH. He nominated Kevin and David. Kevin was the target. He did not win the veto. Cody won the veto. Cody did not use the veto. Kevin will be going home on Thursday. He is now campaigning, trying to make some progress here and see if he can stay. He actually did make a little bit of progress with Nicole, but Cody just shut her down as he is oft to do. And so I very much doubt that we will see any other outcome here, that Kevin will be going home on Thursday alongside 2 other people. Another little piece that happened today is that they got a little bit of a hint about the upcoming triple eviction, that Dr. Will had a message for them that said something about being 3 steps ahead. And I'm surprised they didn't just think that this was throwing shade at Tyler, but it was actually a hint to the fact that there's going to be a triple eviction. So many of them are now thinking that there's going to be potentially an eviction tonight because they're not anticipating a triple, but they are expecting that by the end of the week, they're probably going to see 3 people go home here.
What a disappointment. Like, literally, like, one of the best things about this triple eviction is that the double has gotten a little stale these past few seasons because everyone always knows that it's coming. So there's never any surprise. They already have planned out what they're going to do if they win HOH. They've talked about with their alliance, etc. Now, this was going to be like possibly one of the most exciting episodes because, well, our hope was that they wouldn't even tell them at the opening of the episode that it was going to be a triple. And instead we were going to get a regular double. And then when they think they're safe, boom, they hit them with another. And that is what we were all looking forward to. And, you know, even if they told them at the outset, like, it's a triple eviction, like, at least we get the surprise on their faces. We get to see them scrambling, you know, like not knowing what to do because they all maybe assumed it was going to be a double and now it's a triple and everything's changed. Now we don't even get that. So what do we get? What do we get this season, really?
I mean, I'm normally with you in terms of the, frustration over this season, but I really don't believe that the house guests are prepared exactly for what's going to happen. I think that they first of all, it's just a hint that Dr. Will gave them, and they think, oh, maybe now 3 people are leaving. But again, it's just a maybe. And then Julie's going to hit them with the double eviction in quotes, on Thursday. It's going to happen. I guarantee you they're going to be catching their breath. And they're not going to be prepared for it to happen again. I haven't seen anything that indicates to me that they are prepared exactly for what's going to happen on Thursday. So I do think we will get some, Melissa, not all, but some of what we were going to get.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's like, does CBS just like not know what good TV is? Like, do they just
Right.
not get it? Because it's like every time we're about to get something that's possibly great, they just go and like are like, well, why don't we like not surprise them on the live episode. Like, this is the idea. We're not going to surprise them on the live episode. We'll let them think that it's a possibility, even if we don't tell them flat out. Like, either we tell them flat out or we just make them think it's a possibility to ruin literally all drama, all suspense for the actual episode. It's like, I do not get the logic behind it. I don't understand why this is like a good move in terms of television at all.
Well, here would be my counterpoint, I think, that like what we are maybe not going to get, and let's face it, we'll still get it, is the, oh, it's a triple. Like, that's what we're missing the most, right? And I think that what we're getting is that ever since the feeds came back from this announcement, they've been running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And a lot of the drama that I was sad that I wouldn't get to see because it was all going to, you know, quickly happen, the Band-Aid was going to be ripped off in the triple, is kind of now happening now. And, you know, people are like, oh, now we got to watch out for Danny. We got to see what she's going to do. What is Christmas going to do? Danny and Tyler are talking all of a sudden, and they're trying to BS each other about what they're going to be doing in the future. And like, this week was super boring and super long, all week long. Nothing was happening, and now we're getting something from the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
but I feel like
if the cost is like their shocked faces are
it's
slightly
not
more
about
fake.
that to
It's
me.
like,
I mean, I think it's about that for people who don't watch the live feeds. Like, yeah, they want to see the shock on their faces when they find out that it's a triple. But I think for me, my thought process behind that, wanting it to come as a total surprise to them, is I feel like that even though in this situation, like, and this season, we're never going to get what we want, obviously, but usually my thought process would be like, this might make people panic, might make people like open doors to new moves that maybe they wouldn't have made, or maybe they wouldn't be able to like run by their alliance beforehand. Like, maybe if they're that surprised and they're like, oh my God, I just have to pick something, and okay, Tyler, you're on the block, whatever. Like, you know, it's like when Danny panicked when the whatever, the power got used. It's
the
like
disruptor power, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was hoping for something that might make them panic in the moment and make a decision that maybe they wouldn't have made had they gotten a minute or two or whatever to talk, or a week or whatever to talk with their alliance.
See,
I'll disagree with you on that, though, because every single time a house guest gets surprised by something and thrown into something right away, they pick the lowest common denominator, Melissa. They always pick the easiest, safest thing, because they haven't had a chance to go to their friends and their alliance members and make plans and say, okay, if I do this, will you guys back me up? No one's going to put freaking Cody on the block unless they have the votes to get him out. So
I don't think anyone's putting Cody on the block anyway.
I agree. I'm just living in the universe where something like that could happen. They're not going to make a big move without the ability to double check it, or to fact check it, as Davon would say, with their fellow alliance members or friends. So they're just going to, I guarantee you, if they had no clue anything was happening and they hit him with this.
But what about Cindy?
They were anticipating a double eviction.
Well,
yeah, but they're anticipating that anyway. But they don't know.
Yeah, we're talking about Cindy from Big Brother Canada.
It's a triple.
Yes. So what happened in Big Brother Canada is that Ika had convinced this player named Cindy.
And that's not live either. That's not live. They taped that, so they had time to talk during the commercial break.
Yes.
I'm fine with them talking during the commercial break. It's more about like the week, like the few days worth of planning versus like, we're not going to have to deal with this person on the block. Like, we're not going to have to deal with any sort of repercussions. Like, let's just like make a big move right now. Like, let's just boom. Like, you know, I just feel like the more time you have to talk about it, the more time you have to go over scenarios in your head, the more time you're like, well, I don't know what could come of this, so let me maybe make the safe move. At least that's in my opinion. Is like,
I hear where you're coming from.
I just feel like it's like if you have a split second decision where you have to make it. Yes, obviously it's not like an exact split second, but like, I mean, if you don't have the time to go through the scenarios in your head for a triple eviction versus a double, like, I just feel like there's a possibility that new moves can be made, more like people could, you know, kind of go out of their comfort zones.
So let me say this. In terms of double evictions, I don't think I've ever seen somebody make a move in a double eviction that was completely not even in their thought process prior to it. I think that pretty much every time I've seen somebody make a move in a double eviction, it's what Brent is saying. It's the lowest common denominator. It's the thing that they were already planning on doing. When you mentioned Dani with the disruptor power, the reason she put Tyler on the block is because she hadn't thought of any other options. She had only thought about Tyler. And the reason that I've been dreading this potential triple eviction is because with no thought process beyond their first target, Dani, they don't know who else to target. And by default, that puts David in a lot of danger. Whereas if they know that 2 people are going, now they have time to plan out, okay, who are the next 2 people I want to go that aren't David? Because they need to make sure they've talked to people. They need to make sure it's the right move for them, that they can make it happen if they try it. And if they don't, then they're probably just going to go with the safe thing and just send David out. With a little bit of forewarning, then they can get prepared to make that shot. In addition to that, as Brent said, I don't think that they're like fully caught up to like exactly what the format is going to be. Yeah. We don't even know what the format is going to be. It could be Big Brother Canada style, or it could be this new BBUS style.
Yeah, let's hope it's not Big Brother Canada style. That is literally the worst.
And so Big Brother Canada style would be the way that people would make, a lot of mistakes. And I think that's where we see people like Willow go home out of nowhere. Right. That's where people make, but they're not the kinds of mistakes that I think you'll want to see.
Just so you know, Melissa, and I'm with you generally on the whole Big Brother Canada triple eviction thing, but the only way that Cody goes home is if it is with a Big Brother Canada triple eviction.
I actually disagree.
You don't think that he can go home?
I think it's the opposite.
You think what? If it's the double that we all anticipate, that he could go home?
I think there's a 0.5% chance that Cody goes home in a double and a 0% chance he goes home in a triple.
Really?
In a BBCAN triple.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. See, I had worked out the math on that. I really thought because it's a vote to save. Just so you guys understand, in a Big Brother Canada triple eviction, 3 house guests are on the block, and the house guests vote to save, and the person with the highest number of save votes is safe, and the other 2 people just go home. So I was looking at that, and I thought there were various scenarios where Cody could actually not get the highest number of safe votes if he was up with,
I feel like everyone would vote to save Cody, unfortunately.
That's kind of what I'm feeling. But I can't wait to get into all of that because I literally have every scenario now.
Good. I know. I heard you earlier. Yeah.
But yes, my stance has always been along these lines that when you shake the cage, the hamsters huddle up and they retreat to what they know. They retreat to what's safest. It's when they feel comfortable that they make mistakes. They get greedy. They start making aggressive moves. So that's always been my philosophy on the game. I feel like it plays out time after time, and I feel like we are more likely to see moves being made if they have a little bit of time, a little bit of forewarning that they know, okay, the couple people are going, let's make sure we've got our plans in place so that we don't have to just default to David. And so I'm actually pretty okay with this overall. But let's talk about the state of the house really quickly, and then we can get into some triple scenarios here. First of all, the committee is done. There's no more committee. It's over. Kevin is going home, and David is not anybody's major target other than maybe Memphis, and that means the committee's done. And no more committee, no more state of the house with the committee at the top. It's been that way, not all season, but like the same people in general have been there all season. Instead, we're going to say the Root is running the house. Enzo and Cody. And they kind of have Nicole as a third. They kind of have Tyler as a third with triple threat. So it's like the Root plus Nicole, they've got triple threat, and they're the people kind of running the house. Then you've got the Wise Guys crew, which is Memphis and Enzo technically with Christmas and Cody on a lower rung, but in reality, it's really just Christmas and Memphis, with Cody kind of like, yeah, it's an option, and Enzo like, I hate these people, they're poo-poo. And so then you have Tyler and Christmas who have a strained final two, and then you have the outsiders, David and Danny.
Yeah.
Saw this coming.
Yeah. That's it, yeah.
That's it, yo.
That's the house.
It's interesting to see like Danny in the diary room kind of talking about how, I mean, when she did the HOH comp and she's like, well, Dr. Will taught me that if you are safe or feel safe in this game, then you should go for prizes, or if you're situated well in the game, or that you're whatever she said. And it's like, oh, you are not that, like, sorry. And it's very interesting that is like her perspective on her positioning is like so not what we're seeing and what other people are seeing.
Can we talk about who is the person in the house who would put Danny up, who she least suspects? Because that's what I'm rooting for on Thursday,
Cody.
I think. But he can't compete in the first part.
Yes, he would in the second part.
Yeah. Okay, so if somehow she survives, well, let's say she wins HOH, then she survives.
She wins HOH, takes out Christmas.
Yeah.
It's possible that Cody then goes for Danny.
Wow. That would be crazy if he put her up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even Nicole could do it. Yeah. I don't think Nicole would put Danny straight up, but I think there are niche scenarios where Nicole puts Danny up as a replacement nominee.
Do you think that it's a good idea for Nicole to be going after Danny at this point? I'm not saying that she's like completely going after her, but the fact that she's not like, I need to keep her around.
I mean, is she a woman? She's a woman. She's a woman, right?
That is true.
Then Nicole's going to go after her. Oh.
It seems odd to me. It seems like a bad strategic move to me, just because I don't see Danny going after Nicole necessarily. Like, maybe, yes, Danny spreads her little seeds or whatever she does. But like, in terms of Nicole's relationship with other people, I feel like there are other people who she should go after way before Danny. Like, I just feel like she should maybe let someone else go after Danny and not like stick her neck out for Danny. But I don't think that Nicole should be actively like hoping that Danny goes or anything like that.
Danny is not going. Danny is never targeting Nicole. So it'd be like if Nicole went after Danny, Nicole would be doing the exact same thing that we've been criticizing Danny for the past 3 weeks, and getting rid of people who are loyal to her. There's no universe where Nicole Franzla, in my opinion, should go after Danny. There are plenty of other people, but not Nicole. I'm not sure after that. Because the problem from my point of view for Danny is that she doesn't know she's in trouble. So she doesn't necessarily know who she needs to go after. And even if she does pick off somebody who was going to put her up, there are still plenty of people left who will put her up after she can't compete anymore. So she's really going to have to string a couple comps together to avoid being picked off in the next week or two here.
I'm very surprised that Danny doesn't recognize that she's in such a precarious position right now, just because like I feel like if you're not, I don't know, I mean, are people just like lying to her the whole time and making her think that some other people are targets, or is she just like, I guess we don't have targets right now? Like,
she has to be uneasy after not getting her way 3 straight weeks and being pushed into doing something. She has to consider, but I don't know. Here's the thing, Melissa, can I just point something out? I want you guys to understand this. I don't think it's within her wheelhouse to consider the possibility that she's actually at the bottom, that she could go home in the first part of the triple eviction on Thursday. And you know what would happen if that actually occurred? She would end up in 8th place, which is the exact same place she ended up in on Big Brother 13 when she played the way she wanted to. She played big balls, big moves, everything. She made the fans happy. She went for guts and glory in Big Brother 13, and we loved her for it. But she was mad because she didn't get the big prize. This time, she's playing with the big alliance. She's not making any big moves. She's doing she's trying to be a team player. And I guarantee you, I think she's going to end up in exactly the same spot. And I'm going to be so here for the irony if it happens.
Yes. So, to go back to Nicole, I do not think that Nicole will put Danny up. Though there's, I think, one scenario, maybe two, but probably one scenario where she does. I think if Danny had won the first HOH in the triple, and she got Tyler out, then Nicole won the second one. I think that Nicole would put up Memphis and David. If Christmas wins the veto and uses it on Memphis, which I think she would, then Nicole would have to choose between Cody, Enzo, and Danny to replace. I think at that point she would choose Danny. If Memphis just straight up won the veto, she would have to choose between Christmas and Danny, and she might just choose Danny at that point, but she may also choose Christmas. But that's the scenario where she might actually put Danny on the block, and I think Danny would still be shocked that Nicole chose Enzo and Cody over her in that spot.
Right. Yeah. Lots of fun stuff coming up, but I'm with you, Taryn, in terms of your annoyance over it being ripped off like a Band-Aid in the middle of a triple eviction. This is like the juiciest part of the year, and I just want to make a plea to the Big Brother producers, who I know are big fans of the show, to try a double eviction, or if you want to do triple evictions, try this sort of fast forward thing early in the season when things are boring.
And also, what they're talking about right now, there's probably an eviction tonight, and then a fast forward into a double eviction. That'd be great. A fast forward is great. It's fast gameplay. It's like BB celebrity kind of gameplay. It's fun. It's quick.
That's what we like.
There's not as much downtime. It doesn't need to all be on one night. The only benefit to having it all take place in one night is that you're seeing the whole thing play. Because it's basically that you're watching the competitions live. Yeah, that's basically it. If they shut the feeds down for the competitions during a double eviction, then it would be the worst thing ever, because it would just be like, okay, we're just literally we're just skipping through the game at this point. It's exciting because you actually care about the competitions for the first time in the entire season, because you usually know the competition outcomes already, right? So that's what's exciting about it, and just take that part away and just do some fast forwards. Fast forwards are great. Fast forwards are fun.
And I've been saying this all along: shorten the season. Have less people, well, shorten the season. I love Big Brother, but I prefer good Big Brother in a shorter time frame than long time frame with bad gameplay and boring gameplay. I guess not bad gameplay, but just boring gameplay. That's not fun for me at all. I loved Big Brother celebrities time frame, and it doesn't even need to be that short, but that sort of mindset of let's get this going. We don't need all this downtime, but I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever do it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel because I think asking them to shorten the season is one of those things where it's like that's a network they provide a certain amount of episodes and they need a certain amount of content with the certain amount of time that they have, whatever. I think even if you can't shorten the season, you should still limit the number of people. And yes, that would make the game potentially even slower, but I think the gameplay would still be better. Yes, there might be more downtime for people that watch the feeds and want something to happen every single day, but let's be real, nothing has ever happened every single day in the history of Big Brother. We're always going to have downtime. So I think leave it as long as you want if you need to, but I think it's the cast size, and I've been doing some research into this as well. I really feel like cast size is a big part of the kinds of gameplay that we're seeing. As more people means more groupthink, more group mentality, more mob mentality, and it's harder to play as an individual. And that's we're seeing a lot of the kind of gameplay that we're seeing. But yeah, a shorter season would also be fine. I mean, Big Brother Canada is fine, in terms of length. Yeah. Except for when Big Brother Canada 7 happens and people complain, but whatever.
All this talk about size, my goodness. All right. Anyway, moving on, Taryn.
All right. So, I think it's funny. I'm on the podcast like every day, trashing this idea that the Big Brother US is like copying Big Brother Canada, and they're doing this dumb twist, and they're morons that don't know what they're doing.
Well, yeah, don't copy the dumb stuff. Copy the fun stuff. Yeah,
just copy the good stuff.
And then I'm like, I don't mind that they ruined it because I didn't like it in the first place. And people are like, paid shill.
You guys, Taryn.
You can never win, Taryn.
Yeah.
And
Taryn is not. If only Taryn got paid by CBS people, he would be living so much better than what he is
they
now.
They should pay me. I'd tell them how to make the show right.
Right?
Oh,
exactly.
Oh my God.
That he should be a consultant for CBS, but then you'd have to listen to me every morning, and God bless you on that. So.
All right. So let's talk about this potential triple eviction as we head into it. That, like I said, we're likely seeing Kevin go home this week. With that being the case, we head into the triple. We've been talking about Big Brother Canada style, double style. So the way Big Brother Canada does a triple eviction is that the person gets evicted. They play for HOH as normal in a double eviction. Somebody wins HOH, and then they nominate 3 people. They then play the veto. Somebody comes down, whatever. Stay the same, whatever. Then they cast their votes, and it's a vote to save. You save one of the 3 nominees from eviction, and the other 2 end up going home. That's how the Big Brother Canada triple works, and like many of Big Brother Canada's twists, it's very poorly thought out because it tends to, as we often see, favor the majority. It's terrible for the people in the minority because they get clipped off, on accident, essentially. And so that's one way that they could do this. We're hoping that it's not that way because it's a 2-hour show. And in Big Brother Canada, they do a triple eviction in 1 hour. And the fact that it's 2 hours gives us some indication that perhaps we're just going to run through 2 double eviction style evictions. And how that would work, we would imagine, is that you'd have a regular eviction. Kevin goes home. Then they play in an HOH. Somebody wins. They nominate 2 people. They play for a veto. They vote one of those 2 people out. And then we do it again. And somebody wins HOH and they nominate 2 more people and they play veto and they vote that person out, and that's the episode. Then the next episode, we get the next HOH. So it's 3 people going home in normal format evictions, just very sped up. And that's what I think a lot of us are hoping for, anticipating. And so it's important to note the distinction between those 2 things because they actually have vastly different outcomes in terms of who might go home. Not for the most likely person to go home, but for the second person that might go home. So the first one I want to talk about is the double-double. I think this is the more likely scenario. I can't actually run through every single scenario. I thought that it would be fun to, and then when I was doing it, I was like, that's impossible. I can't do that on a podcast. It will take 4 hours. But I did go through them all, and I assigned percentages, and I did my best. You have to take guesses. If there were situations where I felt like it could go either way, I just kind of cut the percentage in half, and when it theoretically go half this way, but they tend to be very small percentages anyway, so I did my best. We'll see how this goes. But the most likely person to go home in the triple eviction by far, and you don't need to do percentages to figure this out, is Danny. Danny is very likely to go home in this triple eviction. I put it at about 55% that she goes home in the first eviction alone. That in just the first one, she has a 55% chance of being the person sent home. Basically, either her or Nicole need to win HOH, or she needs to win veto, or she's done. Like, I'm pretty sure pretty much every other scenario leads to a Danny eviction, and that would not be good for her, obviously. It's a bad spot here.
Not good, Bob. Not good to get evicted.
Not good.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is... I mean, I can't tell you, of the people in the season, I think, honestly, I can honestly say this, that I am the most disappointed in Danny, because she overlearned the lessons of BB13, and it's going to like in all likelihood, result in her eviction sometime on Thursday, probably during the first eviction, most likely during the first eviction, but if not then definitely during the second eviction, unless it's like a, Nicole, Danny, HOH back to back or something like that. But they're really in dire straits here, and especially Danny. And I just don't know. Where is the fire? It's like the fire's there, but it's muted. She relents. She acquiesces to Cody at seemingly every turn. I can't remember. I think I was listening to you and Sharifa, Taryn, on the Monday podcast when we were talking, or you guys were talking about when Danny's game died, and it was. I think from Sharifa's point of view, it was when Ian got put up on the block, and from your point of view, it was the day that Danny was like begging Cody to come talk to her when she was drunk in the middle of the night, because it just totally encapsulated her terrible, sad game this season. And if she goes on Thursday night, she's going to look back on this season and really, really regret it.
Yeah. I will say, I forgot to mention that I did these percentages based off of the probably incorrect idea that everyone has about an equal chance of winning a competition. Normally, I would try to give certain people edges, but there's just so many different competitions we're going to see. And I expect a lot of them to be pretty crapshooty, pretty like just question oriented, like since they're going to have to be built and taken down very quickly. So I'm expecting it's mostly going to be crapshooty kinds of competitions, and therefore everyone will have a relatively equal chance. I did try to incorporate the idea that Enzo might not be trying to win in all scenarios, but I think most people other than Enzo will be trying to win in most scenarios. So just to explain that part of it, I can tell you that, so based on what I put together, that Danny, about 55% chance she goes home in the first eviction of a double-double. By the second eviction, I'm anticipating 83% chance that Danny is evicted at some point on Thursday night. That it is very unlikely that she will stay in the game at this point. Only 17% that she will survive Thursday night. She will either be 8th or 7th place here.
Do you think that the only way she survives is if she wins a competition, like otherwise she was out? Or do you think that there are certain people in the house who would not go for her? Like, do you think David or Nicole would not go for her? Like, I mean, I know there's like, you were saying there's like the chance like that she could be put up like once as a replacement or whatever. But like, in terms of like, is there any HOH scenario where she survives generally because they don't want to put her up? Like, would that just be David and Nicole maybe?
No, I think David would go after her. But...
Yeah, see, I mean, I don't even know. It's like, I think that like my thought for Danny is the only way she stays is if she wins a competition.
Yes. So Nicole is the only person that just straight up probably won't put her on the block, except for the few scenarios I talked about earlier. And then it's basically Nicole wins a competition and Danny wins a competition. That keeps Danny safe. Danny wins 2 competitions. As long as they're in separate eviction cycles, that keeps her safe. There's maybe one or two outside of that, but some scenarios where Cody won't go after her. Like if he loses Nicole, I thought chance he doesn't go after Danny after losing Nicole, because then he's really giving a lot of power to Memphis and Christmas and Tyler. So some small scenarios there where it might not happen, but for the most part, if Danny expects to survive Thursday night, she's gonna have to hope that both her and Nicole, or just her, win at least 2 competitions.
Yikes. Not looking good for Danny, unfortunately.
Not looking good. So the second most likely person to go home in the triple eviction, it's actually it's a bit of a tie here. There are 2 people who are about equally likely to go home in the triple, and those 2 people are Memphis and Christmas. Both of them are in a lot of trouble, mainly because Enzo seems to want one of them out, like desperately. He really wants to break up the wise guys. We know that Cody really wants to go after Christmas. That's very dangerous for Christmas. If Danny wins the first HOH or even the second one, she's gunning for Christmas. That makes up a lot of her points. Then you have Nicole, who would gun for Memphis, David, who would gun for Memphis. And so all of those add up to overall chance the entire night, about 33% for each of them that they go home. So they're really kind of fighting there in the number 2 spot to survive.
Does that make sense for Enzo to want them to go?
I was just gonna say, what are they? What
like,
is Enzo smoking?
I'm like, what am I missing? Because like I'm like that he's in like a prime position where both Cody on the one hand and Memphis and Christmas on the other hand are thinking that they're working with him, or at least have made plans that they're working with him. And he wants to get them out. Like, it just seems like there's other people still in the house that he's not actively working with that he should be going after first. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. I mean, I theorized about it a bit this morning, that like Enzo doesn't want Memphis to be the guy creating the alliances, because like it's hard to figure out any other real motive here. I could see Cody
wanting Christmas and possibly Memphis out just because it's like, oh, okay, you thought you could trick me and create this other side wise guy alliance and then think that I'm just going to like look stupid as your like second wise guy alliance. Like, I could absolutely see Cody thinking that, but like Enzo, you're in the middle, like you're in the good spot. Why?
Yeah, this is equivalent to Devon rejecting being the fifth wheel in the middle of two couples in a 5-way alliance in Big Brother 18, except that this is even worse because it's way later in the game. I don't understand Enzo's point of view here in trying to get rid of Memphis. In fact, I thought this was like one of the reasons why I gave Enzo a 10 and a 9, because he was positioned so well. Now, true, some of it is not through his doing. You know, obviously Memphis choosing him. It wasn't like Enzo went out and got that. But on the other hand, you can't deny the fact that Enzo consistently ends up in positions like this, and his social game is what makes people want to work with him. They see him as somebody that is trustworthy, that is loyal, that will do what he says he's going to do. But in this case, I'm honestly, except for what you said, Taryn, I mean, Enzo does enjoy the fact that he, names things. That's his thing. So, I don't know. Maybe the chat is calling it out, how they think you nailed it in terms of Memphis being the mastermind and Enzo just doesn't like it. But it has to be more than that, doesn't it? For $500,000?
You'd think. It's really hard to understand Enzo in this. I mean, I've been a little bit perplexed by him for a few weeks now, that it's felt like he has not had his head fully in the game. And if I'm Enzo, I do genuinely want Danny and Nicole to go, because Christmas and maybe Chris, I can maybe see Christmas leaving for Enzo. I can see that, because Christmas may or may not have this attachment to Tyler, and if she has an attachment to Tyler, then she has an attachment to Memphis, and he might be the fourth person or the third person on her list, and that's not great, because he's the third or fourth person on Nicole and Danny's list. So I can see where there's a little bit of comparison there, but you also definitely want Nicole and Danny out, and you don't want, because they strengthen Cody a lot, and Memphis is one of the people who will take Enzo to the final 2. There aren't that many people in the house that will actually do that. It's Memphis, probably Cody, maybe Tyler, and that's it. That's it. That's the only 3 people that might take him to the final 2. Memphis is the only one that's locked in for sure. We know he wants to take Enzo to the final 2.
And even worse than that, Memphis is one of the 3 people that I think is the easiest for Enzo to beat. The other 2 people, yeah. Cody and Tyler, I do think that Enzo would have a tougher time against. Maybe some people can disagree with me on that, considering Devon's not a big fan of Cody right now, but she's also not a big fan of Tyler, and I can't believe she really likes Memphis all that well. So I still think Memphis is the best person. He's a bit of an ornery guy. He doesn't kiss ass well, so I don't know how he would perform in a final 2. Plus, he already has money from their point of view. Like, he has a couple restaurants or many restaurants. I honestly forget, but he's not. He's in a different place financially than a lot of them. I'll put it.
Yeah,
that
he doesn't
way.
need 10K just because he doesn't feel like lying about it.
Yeah, exactly. I still think Memphis is the best person to sit next to in the final two for somebody like Enzo, who doesn't have
I think
money.
Christmas is the best.
Well, yeah, I'm talking of the three guys,
but
of the three people who if it want to take him to the final two. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and it's very perplexing. I don't know what Enzo is up to here.
I mean, hopefully he doesn't win HOH, because if you're rooting for Enzo, the worst thing that could happen is he wins HOH, because then if he actually did go after Memphis, I think it would be a game killer.
I will say I'm predicting that Enzo probably does not want to win the first HOH of this triple eviction. That he will probably try in the second one, based on what happens in the first one. But I did incorporate, not that it would make that much of a difference, but I did incorporate that Enzo probably not trying super hard in the first part of the HOH, just because all of his targets are currently targeting each other. So
yeah,
even if he did want to take Danny and Nicole out, like it doesn't really make sense for him to be the one to do it. And he's been throwing HOHs, so it's hard to expect him to change that. So Memphis and Christmas in a lot of danger. If it's a double-double, I would expect that Danny and one of Memphis or Christmas are the two people to leave. They are the three most likely people by a decent margin. The next really three people in danger, and that's really the rest of them in general, are Nicole, David, and Tyler. Nicole and David at around 16% likelihood of going home over the course of the night. Tyler with about 14%. All relatively equally likely to go here. About half as likely to go as both Christmas and Memphis, but still a full 6 times less likely to go than like Danny or something, or 5 times less likely to go. Nicole, not very likely to go in the first eviction, a little more likely to go in the second one. David, more likely to go in the first one than the second one, but pretty equal overall. Tyler, a little bit more likely to go in the second one overall. And this is mostly assuming that Danny continues to want to target Christmas over Tyler. If she shifts that and she starts to want to target Tyler over Christmas, then that would shift a decent amount over from Christmas to Tyler. Same thing goes with Tyler and Memphis. I'm also assuming that Nicole prefers Memphis out over Tyler right now. But if Nicole decides she'd prefer Tyler out over Memphis, which is probably what Cody would want, then that might shift from Memphis to Tyler. So Tyler, one of the lower people here percentage-wise, but this is not locked in. He is definitely the second option for a couple of different people, and that not only puts him in danger for the triple as things stand, but also that the things could change by the time the triple happens, and he could be in trouble for the eviction. So that's sort of where I see that those things playing out here. Like I said, I think Cody has about 0.5% chance to go home in the second eviction. Low. In the second eviction, there's a small chance that Cody could go home.
Let me get my lottery ticket.
Yes. The scenario where that plays out, right? It's a Christmas HOH in the second part of the eviction. Say somebody like David wins HOH, sends Danny home, then Christmas wins the following HOH. She probably puts up Nicole and Cody. Mm-hmm. She's probably not going to put up David. If she does that, unless David puts her up as a pawn, but if he doesn't, then Christmas probably puts up Nicole and Cody. If Nicole wins the veto, then it's possible that Christmas, she would have to either put up David or Enzo. If she puts up Enzo, Cody would go home. Not likely. She would probably put up David.
Yeah.
There's a chance. There's a chance that like Tyler's in here, like, you can't put up David, he's going to go home, and Cody and Nicole are both going to be safe. It's a small chance, very unlikely, but small chance. And then there's a couple of other specific scenarios. There's so many that it's hard to find them as I search here. But it's mostly scenarios where, let's say, Nicole goes home, Christmas wins, puts up Danny and Cody, and then maybe Danny wins the veto. Who goes up next to Cody? Is it David or Enzo? It's that scenario essentially. Does Christmas really decide, I really want Cody to go home here? If so, sorry, Enzo, I need to use you as a pawn real quick, but don't worry, nobody's going to vote you out.
Yeah, that's tough. I hope she's never shown any propensity to do that before. Somebody would have to be in her ear saying it's okay. Maybe Tyler could be in her ear saying, we have to do it. We have to take a shot at Cody. It is interesting to note that it would only take 2 votes to send Cody out during the second part if it is a double-double on Thursday, because 6 people are voting when Kevin is eventually evicted on Thursday, most likely. Then obviously 5 people for the first part and 4 people for the second part. So you'd only need 2 votes plus an HOH tiebreaker to get rid of Cody. And that would be glorious to see.
Yes. And people are like, oh, it's Tyler's, that's way too small a percentage. 14% is a decent percent to go home. Like that's not good.
Yeah, I think Donald Trump won the presidency with around 14% in 2016. What are y'all talking about?
Yeah, 14% is about like the percent chance that you have to go home if somebody wins the veto. Like on a week where there are 2 people on the block and you go home if one person wins the veto, that's that kind of percentage. Like that's not a good place to be. Tyler absolutely could leave in this spot, as could David, as could Nicole. Memphis and Christmas, about twice as likely, but still, very possible. Danny's the only one that's like, she's probably going home. And even Danny, there's basically a 1 in 6 chance that she stays. And so, it's not guaranteed that she goes. Percentages are, percentages for a reason. Enzo, yes, is at 0%. I do not see any scenario where Enzo honestly goes home or even probably touches the block, except for that one where he goes up next to Cody. And even that is super, super rare. And I do believe Cody would go home. Yeah.
That's impressive. I mean, to have 0% chance of going home during a triple eviction, got to give it to him. He might be doing some weird stuff in terms of who he's targeting, but in terms of his safety, he's doing pretty well.
Yeah. So that's the double-double. Like I said, I'm expecting Danny and probably one of Christmas or Memphis. If not one of Christmas or Memphis, definitely one of Tyler, Nicole, or David, just depending on how those comps play out. Then we head into, what if it's a Big Brother Canada triple? What if they do it the other way? They do it the way where one person wins HOH and they put up 3 people. This actually changes things quite a bit, in my opinion. Danny, in this scenario, is actually less likely to go home because she only needs to win 1 competition to survive. Right. So she has about a 67% chance of going home in this spot. So her chances basically double to stay. She is twice as likely to stay if it's this kind of triple eviction. So she should be praying that it is.
Yeah.
David is the second most likely person to go home in this kind of triple eviction. David with about 50% likelihood of going home if it's this kind of triple. His chances of going home triple for the triple eviction in the case of a Big Brother Canada triple eviction. And that's because he is very often a third nominee. Somebody that I'm not going to put up 3 targets. I'm going to put up, at best, 2 targets and a David. And then there are usually numbers to keep one of the other people, like a Nicole or Cody or even Memphis if Christmas and and Cody sometimes are off the block. And David often just kind of gets hit by that stray shot that he was not really a target, but they didn't know who else to put up in the third spot. And so he gets sent home there and his chances of going home increase dramatically.
Yep. I think that David in this situation, it's just, it makes sense to put David on the block. Like, you don't want to have 3 people upset with you. Like, because David, he already knows, like, everyone's not really working with him. He's an easy mark. Like, you just put him up there. He's not going to be angry with you necessarily because there are so many other people who have put him on the block or targeted him or whatever. And so it's an easy one. And the problem with that being an easy one is that, like, he's also easy to just go and not worry about saving.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he has no agency,
David.
no agency behind him. That's the problem. You really need to have some of that in order to survive this sort of a triple eviction, which is exactly how they shouldn't play. They, if it is a BBCAN style triple eviction, there's no way that David should touch the block. I mean, you're looking.
That's an easy
But
one.
they're not going to have time to think that through.
I know. Well, I mean, they have 2 hours, so they got some sort of time.
I mean, it makes sense because if you're the HOH, you don't want to have 3 people on the block, and then I just feel like it's like, I mean, I guess it makes sense because if
the
2
two
of
are
the
gonna
3
leave.
go,
Yeah.
then you're not really thinking about that.
You have
I
a
think,
chance to remove 2 massive pieces out of the board.
yeah, and only one person stays, and that one might be mad at you, but okay, it's one.
But it's
And if you're putting their allies up next to them.
It's also the fact that most people in the house don't have 3 people that they want to go home right now. That they are only thinking 2 people ahead. That like Danny wants Tyler and Christmas to go. Christmas and Tyler to go. Who's the third person? David, I guess. I don't want David to be here. Nicole wants Tyler and Memphis to go. Who's the third person? Danny? David. I'm not going to put Danny on the block and then she doesn't go home. Who does Tyler want to go? Danny and Nicole and Memphis, I guess. He's actually one of the few people I think might not put David on the block. It's a bad example. But even Christmas, like Danny and Nicole. And then who else for Christmas? Cody? Okay, yeah. But then David goes up on the block if the veto is won in any of these. Even if he doesn't go up on the block in the first round, he definitely goes up on the block in the second round because there are definitely at least 3 people that people want to protect, right? It just puts people in a bad spot. Now, if they had time to really prepare and they knew it was going to be a BBCAN style eviction, then they could go, okay, if I have to nominate 3 people, let me count the votes in every scenario. Let me tell you, from experience, it takes a few hours. So you have to have some time to sit down and think and prepare if you really want to avoid just sending out somebody like David. So,
which I will say, Melissa, I don't mean to interrupt you, Taryn. I'm so sorry, but Melissa was talking about the fact that weird stuff can happen. That would be one of the few places where I think that it would play to your advantage in terms of, forcing people to do something that they aren't prepared for and getting unpredictable results. Because in the first triple eviction we ever saw in Big Brother Canada, someone actually ended up sending home someone who was their ally because they were counting the votes and they weren't sure about who would vote to save where. And they ended up making a choice to basically save someone. Basically, they made a choice to save somebody that that if somebody else went home, they knew they had to have this person and they had to have Kevin Martin out of the game. She actually ended up sending home one of her best friends, the girl I'm talking about, who's actually the winner of that season in that scenario. And it was very funny to watch and gave us a very unpredictable show that evening.
Yes, I'm seeing in the chat people are saying that Danny just said on the feeds that she is going after Tyler over Christmas now.
Ow. Sorry.
See, now I
hit my hand.
I know you're upset about Tyler being targeted, Brent.
I was like, wait, what?
But come
What
on.
is Brent saying?
I don't know. Again, it's hard to know. Sometimes this is not actually true. Sometimes people make things up in the chat. Sometimes it's not like super thing. But let me tell you this: if this is true, if Danny has decided that she would prefer Tyler to go over Christmas, then I would shift those odds. I can't tell you the exact percentage it would shift, but likely we would see Tyler and Christmas be a little more, at least a little bit even in terms of odds. I would probably look at them like Tyler's probably at like 25% and Christmas is at like 23% or something like that. So Tyler would go up, and Memphis would probably stay the same. So it would be Danny, Memphis, Tyler, Christmas, in that order, if that's what happens there. And I'll if it's true, I'll adjust my formula for the next time we talk.
Yeah, I want to see this formula, Taryn.
You can look at it. I don't know if it'll make any sense to you.
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to tell everybody. So earlier today, I listen to the live updates when I can. And I heard Taryn say at the beginning of the update that he was going to, write down everything in preparation for the roundtable tonight. And I sent him a message over text, and I said, hey, when you get a chance, send me that, because I'd like to take a look at it. And I got no response from him. And now it makes sense, because it was ended up being like a 4-page PDF of like all these percentages and various scenarios.
It's longer than 4 pages.
Oh my God.
I literally spent all day doing this. So.
Right? All right.
Yeah. But yes, I would expect that Tyler's percentage would go up, Christmas's would go down, because a big part of why Christmas is likely to go home is those 2 instances where Danny wins the HOH, or Cody winning the second HOH is the other place where she probably goes home. So, but Danny targeting Tyler over Christmas would definitely shift the balance toward much more likely that Tyler goes home than Christmas. But would it change the other one? Probably as well. We'd probably just shift so Danny still most likely to go home in a Big Brother Canada style eviction. David, 50% chance that he goes home there as well. Then you have Memphis and Christmas down at 25%. But if it's true that Danny's going after Tyler over Christmas, then I would probably swap Christmas and Tyler in this spot and say Tyler is at 25% with Memphis, and Christmas is down at 17% with Nicole. I had Nicole at 19%. So what this kind of does is like squash the numbers a bit, so that it's just generally more likely that anything can happen, which I'm sure is why Big Brother Canada loves it. But it's anything can happen in the sense that the underdogs, the outsiders, are more likely to go home in spots where they otherwise wouldn't. So that's where we are. David, by the way, so David, 50% chance in a Big Brother Canada style, about 16% chance in a double-double. I think if they were just 2 regular evictions, David would probably be even less than the 16%. I think David would probably be pretty much a lock to stay for the next couple of evictions, if not for the triple in general. But that's about where I see this. It's again, that's obviously not 100% accurate. It goes off of certain assumptions that a lot of the major choices I do think are obvious and locked in. There are a couple of scenarios where it's like could go this way, could go this way. I tried to incorporate that into this as much as I could, but that's what I got.
Good job, Taryn.
Taryn.
Yeah, really. I'm so excited to see some of this play out, because on Thursday night we're going to get what will be, honestly, since I'll tell you, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. Since Davon got evicted, I've been so bored. I really have been. I've been looking for something to pick me back up, and at least we're going to get a little bit of a pick me up on Thursday with what's going to happen. And they were clued in a little bit, but again, I don't think they're prepared for what's exactly going to happen. And I just love it when the house guests are surprised. So we'll see what happens.
Yes. If people really want to see this whole thing, I'd probably need somebody to make a chart for me based on, because there's no way that I'd be able to present this in a readable format by myself.
Yeah.
It's so funny. This is why you do so much better in the stock watch than I do, because in my mind, I'm like, well, there's really no way to predict what's going to happen on Thursday. And you're like, well, actually, here's exactly how we're going to predict it down to the numbers. And that is exactly why I do not do well in the stock watch.
Well, there you go. All right. Speaking of the stock watch, are we ready?
We are.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into it then. Here is the stock watch. We're going to rate the players from 1 to 10 based on how well they are doing in the game this week. And it's going to be an interesting one, because with the triple looming, and literally everyone except for probably Cody and Enzo could easily go home. Like, again, 1 in 6 shot for at least for every single person, if not more. So it was hard to like gauge where I want to rate these players in general. I kind of like this week, not because of anything they are doing, but I think in general I was just kind of like, the triple kind of makes everyone's game worse a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't really help anyone except for like maybe Cody if he does it right? Because he's probably a lock, and and maybe Enzo if he gets lucky, since he kind of wants to do the bad thing for himself. But the ratings might be a little wonky this week just because it's weird and there's a triple. But we polled the audience. You guys submitted your ratings for the players as well, and we're gonna go through them bit by bit, player by player, and we're gonna start with Christmas. Brent, how do you feel about Christmas?
I'm so torn about Christmas. It's very Fencerton to me because of the fact that there are two people, in my view, that would take Christmas to the end of the game in Memphis and Tyler. And she at least recognizes that there is a bit of a tug and pull in her mind for who she's going to be more loyal to. Obviously, she was more loyal to Tyler in the beginning. Now she's more loyal to Memphis because of the fact that Tyler really shook her. She was shooketh when Tyler tried to quit the game. And she's saying that he tried to dishonor Big Brother. I don't think that's really it. I think that's cover for her being like, I got my feelings hurt because you didn't want to play with me anymore. He didn't give an F about Christmas. He just wanted to go home and leave her high and dry. So I am torn. I will say that I think she's probably more on the outs than she is in the in. So because of that, it's going to be a low score. Exactly how low? I think by the end of Thursday night, she will not be in the house anymore. So I'm going to give her a 4. I think that she's quickly running out of runway in the Big Brother house. And I look forward to her during the triple eviction when the HOH is invariably targeting her during the second part and says, Christmas is my target. And she says to everybody, well, we need to respect what the HOH wants here, guys. That's what we should do. Yeah, that was sarcasm, by the way. It's a 4.
All right. It's been tough. It's been tough for Christmas. I'm going to go with a 5 for Christmas. And that's because, about a 33% chance, according to my own calculations, that she goes home on Thursday. Although if you assume that, Big Brother Canada style and Big Brother double style are equally likely, then you'd kind of average those percentages out and it'd be a little bit lower. But still, she's relatively likely to go home on Thursday. But if she doesn't go home, I don't know that she's necessarily like a target at the final 6. I think that she starts to blend back in, especially if she doesn't go, it's probably Memphis that goes. And that's not great for her, but at the same time, it's not terrible for her because, depending on, who wins the next one.
Right.
I think Cody will still probably be after her, but she will probably have like David and Tyler on board. And so depending on who else is there with her, right? But I don't think she's in the worst spot in the world. I think the longer she makes it in the game, the more appeasing, the more appetizing she is as a final 2, person to bring to the final 2. I think Memphis is her best bet to win. I think she can beat Tyler. A lot of people have looked at Tyler like he's checked out this season. Davon doesn't respect the way that he tried to leave the game.
Davon is not feeling Tyler. Let me tell you all.
Just to make this clear overall, especially at this part of the game, I feel like anybody can win this jury.
I do too.
I really do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Not only because every member of the jury has gone out being like, I'm going to be super bitter. And it's like, what does that even mean? Like, who does that impact the most? I have no idea. And then also the fact that a lot of these players are on relatively equal playing fields. They've all been in the same alliance. They've all been playing relatively similar style games. And so I really feel like anybody can win. I'm not ready to count anybody out, even David. So for me, it's a 5. What I want to see from her, if she's going to succeed, is first of all, survive the triple. Second of all, get to the end with one of these people, David, Memphis, even Tyler. And I think those are the people she's likely to end up in the final 2 with. But she's going to have to win some comps. And I think her allies are going to have to win some comps as well. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree with what both you guys are saying. I feel like there's a serious chance that she could leave, or I guess not be here next week. But at the same time, I know there are percentages, and I know, but it's like, I still feel like anything could happen, and she could win a comp. Like, it's like, I don't necessarily think that, like, I mean, I know you guys don't think this either, that she's just like dead in the water, but I also think that after this week, if she sticks around, I don't think she's dead in the water either. I am concerned, however, because, Enzo talking about wanting to go after her when supposedly they're working together is like not great for her. But I do think that she has like some people still there on her side. So I'm not ready to go down to a 4 yet. So I'm like at a low 5, but a 5.
Yes.
Right.
The audience is with us, Melissa. They gave her a 5 as well. It's again, it's such a tricky spot. It's so hard to judge where these players are with the triple. And
she could be out or make a run at the end game.
Exactly. So
it's always like, well, if she leaves this week, then this. If she doesn't leave this week, then this. It's like anybody could leave. Like usually it's like we only have 2 people to consider, well, if they leave or if they don't leave, and the rest of them are like, okay, they're going to be here next week so they could turn it around. But now it's like she could literally be gone.
6 people. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And what I said at the start of this was that like players are going to be penalized for the triple coming, but I think what I meant was that like for me, my ratings gravitated toward the middle, just because the more uncertainty there is in the game, the more I'm just like, it's not good, it's not bad, I don't know. Anything could happen. And like, just because, Christmas is, 3rd most likely person to go home in the triple eviction doesn't mean that she's going to, you know what I mean? Like, it's still only 30%. Like, that's actually not that big. At the same time, 16% is probably bigger than people think, but 33% is probably not as big as people might think. So it's the percentages can be misleading sometimes if you're trying to compare them, I think. So next up is Cody. Let's talk about Cody. Last week, Cody got the highest score in the history of the Stockwatch. He got 3 10s and an 8 from the audience. This week, I am not at the 10, mostly because of the triple eviction. So he's very well positioned. He's probably going to survive the triple eviction. But I don't know what the game is going to look like on the other end of the triple eviction. It will probably look good for him, but I don't know. So that's one thing. Second thing, didn't love how he handled the Kevin conversation.
I was about to say, yeah.
I think that he has pretty much repaired it. I don't think Kevin's going to leave this game like, I'm definitely still not voting for Cody. I think he's fine with Cody now. But if this is an indication of like how Cody will react in a jury questioning, then like that's not great. Third thing, he has too much faith in the idea that David will not come for him. I think that David will come for him, and I'm not sure he sees that, and that's pretty much the one thing he doesn't see in the game. So those are 3 negatives, but they're not like huge negatives. They're just like, I'm really trying to nitpick, and but with those nitpicks, it's a 9 for me.
Yeah, totally agree. You called it. The Kevin conversation was really the first part of what I have seen before in Cody, but that Derek really kept under lock and key, which was the obstinate part of him, the part that gets irritated quickly, that snaps at people. And even then, I don't think he was terrible in the conversation with Kevin, but overall, I don't think he handled it as well as he could have, considering he's the one who's the HOH. He's the one who's in power. He's the one who's ending somebody else's dream. You have to at least own your stuff in that. You can't just you're not on an equal playing field, and when you're talking with someone, even though it doesn't seem fair. And there are ways that he can go home. They are mostly improbable, but there are ways that he can go home. And with a triple eviction, anything is possible, especially if it's a Big Brother Canada style triple eviction, which I know Taryn disagrees with, but I do think that there is a way that he could go home in that instance.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to ask you, what's the scenario where you see that happening?
So let's see. Christmas wins HOH, targets Danny,
Nicole, Cody is what I expected.
Danny, Nicole, Cody, and then Danny wins. Actually, wait, let me take that back. David wins the veto.
Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah. Nobody would use the veto on Danny, so Danny would have to win the veto. Danny wins the veto, comes down. She has to name a replacement nominee, and she puts up Enzo.
Yeah. I mean, that's similar to the spot. I think she's less likely to put up Enzo in the third because she can't promise Enzo's safety, and I don't think she wants to risk Enzo's safety in that spot. So I think she's less likely to put up Enzo there as she is in the second part of the double or triple.
Right.
But it's still, I guess, theoretically possible. I think I expected that she would put David up as the replacement with a 3 nomination.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to avoid saying David, because I'm like,
Yeah.
if he goes on the block in a triple, I think he's gone.
Yeah.
In that kind of a triple. So anyway, no matter any way you slice it, it's a 9. And if he can survive the triple eviction and things continue to go his way, I'll bump him back up to a 10. But right now, there's too many unknowns and a couple of deficiencies. It has to be a 9.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree. And I kind of I feel like I regret giving him a 10 last week only because I'm like, really? This is the highest scored person in our whole stopwatch?
Melissa, he's been the HOH for freaking 8 weeks.
That is true. But still, it's like when you say it like that, it's like, oh, really? Like, is this what we're all gonna live with?
I do think something that you have that we have to look at, because it can sometimes get lost, is that this is week to week. It is not completely about the player. It's not like the player with the most 10s is the technically best player of all time, right? Circumstance plays a lot into week-to-week ratings. Luck plays a lot into week-to-week ratings. So we may have given Cody the highest individual week score of all time, but when we go to rate him as an overall player, that's where he may be lower than other players.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the key, because I feel like the person looking in on it is like, okay, so he's ranked the highest out of anyone in the stock watch. You guys consider him the best player? And it's like, no, that's not necessarily it. Like, if we are going to do one of our, whatever player rankings that we do sometimes, I don't think I would consider him the number 1 player of all time just because he was number 1 in the stock watch or number 1 player of the past few seasons or whatever. I just think that if you look around and you see all the people, I mean, obviously he's doing something right. We all know that, but I do also think that part of what's playing into it is everyone around him kind of just being like, I want to protect Cody. I want to, if people were playing I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like if he was on a different season and he was playing this exact same way, I don't necessarily think we would be ranking him this high, because I think that people might see through it and be like, okay, this guy's winning a ton. He's been in power for so long. We have to get him out. So I don't know. I just think that he's not the best.
I think you're correct that with different people on the show, that he would not have such an easy ride. If there were more Kevins and Davons and less, Nicoles and Dannys who were kissing his ass, then I think he would have a tougher time. But the fact of the matter is, he's played 2 seasons. The first season, literally no one came for him. They loved him on that season, and he got 2 votes at the end. That's against true. Derek, one of the greatest of all time. And then he's on this season, and literally no one has come for him.
That's true. I mean, I don't want to like discredit Cody, but like,
Go ahead,
can we
Melissa.
also point to the fact that like these people on this season know him, some of them know him prior to the season, like they have an existing relationship. Like maybe if he was put on a season with just random people, he wouldn't have these same sort of relationships.
Melissa, are you trying to say that this was pregame?
Well, I do think that there is some prior relationships that are coming into play. But you know, like, I mean, I do think Cody is a likable guy. I think that like, you know, I can see why people gravitate towards him or maybe don't want to get him out. And then he kind of like makes his way into your like strategic alliance, you know. I can see why it happens. I think Cody is a likable person, but I do think that we can't necessarily look at his last season and look at this season and be like, well, look, he's done it twice. Because I do think this season's a little different just because he had those relationships prior to the season.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think, like, especially when we get to like, when we do our, you know, wrap up podcast and we're ranking the players overall. I think I think probably the biggest topic of conversation when it comes to Cody will be around the advantage he had with his pregame connections. That this was a good draw for him.
Right.
That like Nicole was a good draw, Enzo was a great draw, and you know, even like players like Tyler who were willing to work with him, who like, you know, Tyler was actually probably not a great draw for Cody, but the Tyler that we're seeing right now was. Tyler from Big Brother 20 wasn't a great draw, but this Tyler, pretty good. And so,
Oh, yeah. Plus, like, can you like imagine if Cody or Memphis wins the season and then we have to deal with like for the rest of time that, oh, Hitman was the greatest alliance. We produced 2 winners out of 2 people. And same with like Renegades was the best. And like they did it with Chilltown. And now they're going to do it again with this. And we'll never hear the end of it if we get a Memphis or a Cody win.
Best alliance is a silly concept anyway,
especially if they
real.
don't play on the same like season, I feel like. I mean, I guess Chilltown, it makes sense because they played on both seasons kind of. But like this one, like you don't even have the other person on the alliance on this season. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But yes, I'm sure not to get too, you know, bogged down in the Cody talk, but I'm sure there's plenty of conversation to be had about that when we get to the end game. But for right now, you know, we're not ranking Cody on his overall performance as a player in general, because, you know, we'd probably be doing the same ratings every week if like it's not often that we like change dramatically our perception of like who a player is and like how good they are in general, right? So we'd, you know, that's why we do week to week. We are trying to both judge them as players in terms of how much faith we have in them in this season, and also trying to predict how they are going to perform in the season. Are they going to win? Are they going to lose? That's why somebody going out, like leaving the game, is often going to get a very low rating, when otherwise they, you know, like somebody who is on their way out the door will probably get a 2, maybe even a 1, but then the end of the season we'll rate them as a player, might be a 5, could even be a 6, could even be higher. But it's just like they were definitely a goner in that week, and that's why we rated them lower. So something to keep in mind. But the audience gave Cody an 8. Again.
I thought you were gonna say give him a 10. I was gonna be like, man, wow.
The audience has never handed out a 10, correct?
No.
Yeah. They have given 9s, I believe, to Tyler.
To Tyler, I see it on the thing I just retweeted. Yeah.
Yes.
I retweeted the times that 10s have been awarded, and Cody was, as you said, the highest rated person ever.
This might be the closest. This might be. I'm not sure. Well, Christina, I'm sure will figure this out. But Cody, an 8.28, which is really close to a 9 in terms of how close people often get to 9s. So
yeah,
it's getting there. All right. Next up is Danny, and I can tell you that the audience gave Danny a 4 this week, same as last week. I don't know that I agree with the audience here. In fact, I almost went down to a 2. I mean, looking at my percentages for Danny, I was like 83% if I'm right. Like,
No,
that's 2 territory. but she's not on the block right now. And I wasn't ready to go all the way down to 2, so I stuck with my 3.
Well, I will tell you, I did go down to a 2. And
I did
couldn't
too.
believe it myself. I went down to a 2 for Danny because of the fact that you cannot tell me that she's not going to end up on the block sometime on Thursday night. She's going to end up on the block, and I think it is a tall task to win 2 separate competitions over a 2-hour period. Whether it's HOH veto, veto HOH, HOH, or veto whatever, anything like that. That's like fan fiction. I feel like the only way she doesn't go home is if she wins 2 competitions. Yeah,
like, I feel like
2
that's
specific
really
ones. It can't even be HOH.
way.
So that's
and
why
veto.
we're giving her a 2.
Yeah, like if she could win 2 competitions and still go home on Thursday, if they're not 2 of the right competitions. So that's really bad place to be.
It's not good.
Yeah. I mean, it's been done before. I mean, Ian was safe for like 6 rounds in a row. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just feel like she's put herself in such a bad position that like
she deserves to pay for this.
Right. It's like this is just super. It's not good any way you slice it. And I feel like even after this week, it's not good.
Yeah, Melissa, the karma of the Big Brother universe is going to feed us. They are not going to give Danny the luck to be able to get out of the mess that she has painted for herself here.
It's too bad because I really enjoy her in the diary room, and I really am liking her as like a villain, like mastermind, if she actually was the mastermind. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the way she's painted herself in the diary room, like I'm loving it. It's unfortunate that it's not really accurate, but like,
yeah,
I like the character.
She's not the mastermind. She's the Igor. Okay. She's like the stupid assistant.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I think the other thing hurting her is that she is now she's an underdog. And this season punishes underdogs. So like she's
right. Yeah, we never get what we want. Like we're finally rooting for Danny. It's time for her to go off with her head.
All right. Next up is David. Melissa, how do you feel about David?
It's really tough because if this wasn't a triple eviction, I feel like I would feel a lot better about him just because I feel like, okay, the odds of him going up in a normal week like aren't as great as they have been. Like I feel like he's kind of would fade into the background, but because it's a double eviction or a triple eviction, I feel like, especially like we said, if it's a Big Brother Canada style double eviction, triple eviction, he's endangered and he might inadvertently be sent home, even though he's not the target, even though people aren't like, they're not fixating on David anymore just because like he's by himself. What's he gonna do? So it's tough because it sucks. I want to give him a better score. I feel like I've kind of been increasing his score week by week, but this triple is really tripping me up. So I think like I'm just gonna stay at a 4 for now. But if he survives this, I could see him getting a much better score next week. So.
Okay.
Yeah. I went down to a 3. I also have been increasing David's score ever since we gave him a 1. I went up to a 2, then a 3, and then finally a 4 last week. But I'm going down to a 3 this week because of the looming triple eviction threat. I think there's a high chance, as Taryn talked about, that he could go or even be hit with a stray shot, depending on how things go on Thursday night. And also, I'm still not convinced of his winner equity. That's the other thing I think I want to talk about is the fact that, combined with how uncertain his future is in the game, he still doesn't have anybody who's definitely working with him, and the fact that I still question whether or not he could actually win the game. So I went down to a 3, and it wasn't even a high 3 really.
I did stick with my 4 here, just because I'm personally feeling like it's not going to be a BBCAN style. I feel like it's going to be a double-double in that spot. He's a bit safer. If he survives to the final 6, he's in an okay spot. And if he wins one of these competitions, like, and he makes a big move, which is possible, like it might even just be forced out of him, like that could be big for him. Or he could, if he makes it to the final 6, that point you've got real good odds to start winning HOHs. And I feel like that's what he needs to start building a resume. Yes, it doesn't look like he can win a jury right now, but if David is the guy that can't be evicted because he keeps winning and he knocks out everybody from the committee who thought they were running the game, like that's the role that can win this game. So I'm not down into 3, but I'm also, I wanted to give him a 5 this week. The reason I'm not is because this triple. It's just too likely that he does get hit in this triple eviction. So. But I think one of the more likely scenarios in this triple is that both Danny and Memphis go, and that's his perfect scenario. Like, if he doesn't win an HOH and Danny and Memphis are the 2 people that go home, and he competes at the final 6 against 4 other people, and Danny and Memphis, the 2 people gunning after him the most, are both gone, whew. That's not a bad place to be for David.
That's a really lovely setup, but he has to get there first. I mean,
does.
like if he gets there and the game board is significantly changed from what we know of it right now, then I look forward to giving him 5s and possibly even a 6 if he can put together any sort of a competition.
Yeah. The audience also at a 4 for David. All right. Let's move on to Enzo. Let's talk about Enzo. Now, I've been giving 9s to Enzo, and I've been telling him, you're on thin ice, Enzo. And he broke that ice because I don't know what he's doing. We talked about this already. I do not know what he's doing going after Memphis. Right. It's the wrong move. And if he succeeds at it, then he's diminishing his own odds of winning this game, in my opinion. It's very possible that both Memphis and Christmas could go in this triple, and that's terrible for him. Now he's stuck with Cody and Nicole still in this house together. That Danny is still in the house. That's not terrible, but like even if it's Memphis and Danny, that's not bad. That's not great for him either. But it's especially not good if he loses Memphis and Christmas. He has to deal with Cody and Enzo. He's got Tyler still in the house. He's taking out all of the best people to take to the end who are most loyal to him for the harder people to beat in the end who are less loyal to him. And I don't love it. It's a rough jury draw. Like, I think he's still one of the more likely people to win a jury vote, but like, again, this jury could go anywhere, and I feel like the best chance you have is to take people like Christmas and Memphis who both want to be with you in the final 3. So it's like, man, those are 2 of the easiest people. So despite all of that, he's in a great spot. He's not going to go home in this triple. He's not going to go home at the final 6 either, probably. I expect to see Enzo in the end game, but he seems to actively be making his path harder than it needs to be. And so I went with an 8 overall.
I think that makes some people in the chat happy because I think they thought that you were going to go down to a 7 based on the way you were talking. Because as you are, I'm pretty put out with Enzo, and I didn't go down to a 7, mainly because of his position in the house is so good. That's the thing. There's literally no scenario that you can present to me where he goes home in a triple eviction, which is crazy to me that he can't go home on Thursday night.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at, like, position wise, because like his position is so good. I feel like it goes unsaid, but like it seems like I'm speaking so negatively because I'm like, yeah, you already know he's in an amazing position. Like, he's not going home anytime soon. That's where the rating comes from, and the nitpicks are why he's a little bit lower.
Yeah, I give him an 8 as well. So just FYI. All
right, the audience also gave Enzo an 8. Melissa, where are you?
Yeah, I mean, 8 for me as well. I think we basically covered it earlier, but I'm concerned about why he's trying to target these people who are supposed to be working with him. It just doesn't seem to make sense. But, I think that the odds are he survives during this triple eviction, and maybe, things change. So, we'll see.
We'll see. All right. Next up is Kevin. Brent, how do you feel about Kevin?
Oh, sorry. Even though I'm traveling this week, I did actually bring my paddle with me. So I made sure of it. Yay! It's a 1 for Kevin. I mean, talk about what could have been with Kevin, man. like, of the people who were the surprises on this season, I think Keisha and Kevin Campbell were the two big surprises that we were all like, whoa, like these are like the people that have been on the niche lists that we've been doing, in our best of or please bring back these people lists on RHAP and beyond. Kevin Campbell was somebody that a lot of people had a lot of faith in, that we really wanted to see back. He's a great representation of what we love about Big Brother because he's a gamer and he obviously touches the LGBT field and the person of color field. And you just feel he's also just a really good person and you want to see him do well. But he has not done well. And he's certainly gotten used to being on the block, and he has to recognize that this week is distinctly different than last week when people were telling him, you're safe. Don't worry. I got you. You're safe. No one is saying that to him this week, not in a way that's convincing at all. He has to recognize he's in trouble. I do agree with you, Taryn, that the fact that Dr. Will gave them this little hint about the possible fast forward / triple did mean that it lit a fire underneath Kevin and he started working a little harder, but it doesn't seem like it's going to bear any fruit. If it, obviously does, then I would move him up. But right now he's almost, in fact, I don't even want to say almost. He is certain to go home on Thursday night. And I'm really bummed about what could have been with Kevin.
Yeah, I didn't go for the 1. I went with the 2 for Kevin.
How can you not go with the 1?
I feel like, especially because I think what clinched it for me was today when the fire was lit under him. He talked with Nicole, and Nicole went upstairs, and she was like, "Can we please keep Kevin?" Like he flipped Nicole. Like he's doing a good job, and he talked to Cody, and Cody went upstairs, and he was like, Kevin's good at this game. Like that was a great pitch. Like,
but do you
honestly,
think there's any chance
that's why
he would
needs.
Stay?
That's why. No. I'm saying that Cody was like, that's why he needs to go. But
so
like,
then,
I tried to reserve ones for people that are just actively burying themselves, who could be doing something that they're not. I feel like Kevin is making a decent enough effort that he's not like the bottom of the barrel in terms of like what he's doing this week. He's been fighting hard all season long, and he's just got nothing left.
Melissa, Taryn considers the 1 to be like the lowest form of shade. And he doesn't think that Kevin is worthy of that.
I generally feel like if you get a 1, it means like you've really done this to yourself. Like you really you're believing obvious lies. You're actively taking chances that you have with votes that you otherwise would have. Like stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I see your point. I don't know. For me, it's like usually I try and give higher than a 1 to someone who there's like, I don't know. I feel like it's if I can say there's still a chance they might stay. Like there's still a chance, like they're not totally tanking their game and there's a chance they might stay. Like we don't know what's going to happen. They might stay. But with Kevin, I feel like we already know and we've already counted him out of this triple. So to me, it's like, even if he's now starting to, maybe convince Nicole or make some moves or whatever, and he's maybe not playing it totally terribly, I feel like it doesn't matter and he's going anyway. Like, and if there's no chance that he could stay, then to me, it seems to be a 1 to me. So that that's why I'm going to give him a 1, not necessarily because I'm like, oh, Kevin is so terrible or anything like that. It's just that like, if there's no chance for him to stay, then,
Christina in the chat just said that Taryn has given a 1 16 times compared to Brent's 40.
Boy.
Well, it's interesting because it also works to the other extreme too. I think I have given a 10 5 separate times at least that I'm seeing on the screen that I retweeted that shows the highest rated people. Taryn, I think, has only done it 2 different times to Cody and Tyler, and Melissa apparently only once have you given out a 10?
Yeah, apparently.
First
I didn't
10.
know I did that. I thought I gave a 10 to Tyler, so that's why I was more judicious with giving my 10 to Cody, and now I regret it because I don't necessarily think he's playing.
You blew it on Cody. Come on,
Tyler. I know it's like it made me sad when I saw that because I really thought that I at one point gave Tyler a 10, and so I was like, you know what? If I gave Tyler a 10, I'll give Cody a 10, and now I'm like, ugh.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel I just like I want something to differentiate. Like if they're doing one of the two things, then they get it too. They have to be doing both, because otherwise, then like how do I separate Kevin or just somebody who's just like they're going home from like this person's really bad, like
Right.
they're really going home.
Taryn, where did you find out that that little stat?
Christina just said it in the chat. She
Oh, okay, cool.
might have,
Sorry, I didn't
like,
see that. Ah, okay, yeah.
known it
I see
offhand or looked it up really quick.
I see it.
All right. So the audience went with a 4. Nope, sorry.
What?
Sorry. Looking at the wrong one. A 2.
Okay, it's like, wait.
That's 2.
I think the audience really has faith in Kevin this week, apparently.
Yeah, a 2 for Kevin from the audience. All right, let's move on to Memphis. Melissa, how do you feel about Memphis?
I feel about the same with Memphis that I did last week. However, I do think it is concerning that Enzo is looking at him. I think that the fact that there is a chance, however slim or whatever, that he goes out in this triple is not great. But I just feel like I'm like torn between, because I gave him a 7 last week, so I'm torn between a 6 and a 7. I'm just gonna stick with my 7. I
think that's a fair score. It happens to be the same score I'm giving him, which is a 7.
So that's why it's fair.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I do think that there are some scenarios where Memphis could go home, but I honestly, in my gut, I don't feel like he's going to go home on Thursday. I really, really don't. Maybe that's a little bit hoping, because I think of the people who are in the house, maybe besides Cody, I think that Memphis has probably played one of the better games. He's really made an effort at an end game, and while Tyler is sitting there dilly-dallying, not doing squat, and Memphis is actively trying to put some stuff together, even though Enzo is currently rejecting it. So it's a 7 for me, and I feel pretty good about it.
You guys have I'm all over the place, I guess, with Memphis. I dropped Memphis down to a 5.
Wow.
I mean, look, again, when I did the math here, I see Memphis with a 33% chance to go home on Thursday. And that's not great by itself. But on top of that, last week when I gave him an 8, he had the wise guys locked in, seemingly. That I felt like,
right.
Enzo's in. Enzo's into the wise guys. Memphis is
It did
only
seem like that.
Yeah, Memphis's only problem is that he can't take out Enzo. He can't take Enzo to the final 2. He needs to take Christmas, but that could easily be solved by just changing his mind by the end, or maybe Enzo goes out at some point and Memphis gets the end with Christmas somehow, because it's he's there. Maybe Christmas wins and takes Memphis. Like, he's still in a great spot. But Enzo is not locked in, and we found that out, and that is so bad for Memphis.
Okay, I'm with you on this. Can I stop you right here real quick, though? Okay, the reason why I don't consider that to be the biggest deficiency in the world is because I don't think Enzo is going to win HOH. I don't think he wants to win HOH. I just don't see Enzo winning HOH and literally backstabbing Memphis and putting him on the block. I don't think that is within. I don't think that's within Enzo's vocabulary to do, Taryn.
I don't either.
Okay.
That's not the reason I think Memphis is likely to go home. I don't think I have any scenarios or very few scenarios where Enzo puts Memphis on the block.
I think he would vote against him if somebody else put him on the block.
Yes, that's where Memphis goes home. So I'm not counting on Enzo to take out Memphis in the triple. I'm looking at other people who are likely to do that. And more importantly, even if he does survive the triple, Enzo wants nothing to do with Memphis. He doesn't want to bring him to the end. And so if Enzo wins at the final 6, he's probably looking at taking out Memphis. Enzo very clearly prefers Tyler to Memphis, and he prefers Nicole to Memphis. He even seems to prefer Christmas to Memphis to some degree. And so I'm looking at, Memphis just being a target of Enzo's, and being a target is fine, but like, if Tyler's in the game, he's going after Memphis. If Nicole's in the game, she's going after Memphis. If Enzo's in the game, he's probably going after Memphis. His end game is in ruins. He took a huge gamble with Enzo, trying to bring Enzo in. And Enzo ratted out the wise guys to Cody. Cody has ratted out both versions of the wise guys to Nicole. Nicole wants Memphis out. Like, this end game is in shambles. And even if he doesn't go home in the triple, Christmas probably will. And losing Christmas is real bad for Memphis, especially because Enzo doesn't want to work with him. So I think that this is really not looking good for Memphis. He's going to need the right combination of things to happen and some really clutch comp wins, in my opinion, to move forward. Because again, his entire game gambled on the maneuverings, and I think he made the right moves. I do. I think strategically he's got a great head for this game, and he made the right calls in the right places on a strategic level, but he chose the wrong person. Enzo isn't into it. Enzo should be into it. This should be working, but it's not. And because of that,
well, I can say that some people who obviously bought Memphis in the chat were not happy with your score. You can thank me and Melissa.
Well, they're probably not going to be happy with the audience score either. It was close, but they went with a 6 for Memphis overall.
I just feel like I don't know. I don't see Memphis leaving in this triple. And so I do think he has like the ability. I feel like I have the, feel like I see him moving past this week and also doing well further than that. Like, and also if we are going to talk about like, well, he has to win some comps, like he has done that. I mean, he's had a history of doing that. So I do see like, it's not like, you know, David or someone where we're like, well, we've never seen him win a comp, but hopefully he wins this week. Like Memphis has been winning a ton. So I do think that like, I have more faith that like, if he is put up on the block or whatever for this triple, that he wins a comp and saves himself, or that he wins HOH. Like, I just feel like I do see a situation where he moves forward and he, you know, like does well in the future. But I mean,
that's okay. Melissa, I've seen this before. I remember being on the podcast with Taryn and Sharifa, where Sharifa was like, I just don't feel it in my, I feel it in my gut. And Taryn was like, well, you know, I can show you this. And then it ultimately, you know, it's a different way to look at the show. You and I are in agreement that we do not feel that there is a universe where Memphis is going to leave on Thursday night and that he has legs to make it to the end game. Taryn, on the other hand, he gave us a list of reasons why he doesn't feel that way. But that hasn't changed my mind, though. So I'm with you.
Well, so
Taryn's like, wait. Let me change your mind now.
Just because you're saying you can't see the scenarios.
I can see it. I just like my gut says.
I just don't feel it.
There are two people who are gunning to evict Memphis in the triple eviction.
Yes.
Nicole and David. Both of them would put Memphis on the block if they won, and both of them have 2 chances to win. And in both scenarios, Memphis has a chance to go home. In the Nicole scenario, Memphis is going home unless he wins the veto. In the David scenario, Memphis will go home if Danny wins the veto. If Danny is already gone, then Memphis just straight up goes home unless he wins the veto in the David scenario. So those are the biggest scenarios where Memphis goes home. Then there are scenarios where Enzo wins HOH in the second part, and maybe Danny's already gone, and maybe he puts up Memphis and Christmas or something like that. So there are that's where those come from. I'm not like you know, for the people, like I'm not making those numbers up. Yes.
Listen, no, I said you had reasons. Yeah, I wasn't. I mean, I'm not discounting the reasons or the logic. I'm just you know, two different ways to look at it. I guess here's the thing. I've been disappointed about the way things have gone on Big Brother this year. And usually like if things go a certain way, they just keep going that way. And Memphis has had such a magic carpet ride this whole season. I feel like it's just going to continue for him, but maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on. Let's talk about Nicole Franzel. Brent,
can we start with I was going to say, can we start with the audience?
Okay.
Because their
they're
audience
always
is
going to be
they're
low.
always down on Franzel. I'm curious about what they say this time.
Well, last week the audience gave Nicole a 5.
Yes.
This week they gave her a 6.
Well, good job,
Well,
audience.
I'm confused because I don't feel as good about her.
Me neither.
Like, I feel like that is
Well,
the one time that I've been like,
Right. Okay, go ahead, Melissa. Yeah, we all have stuff to say.
Yeah, I just feel like it's like she had Danny in her corner essentially. Like, I mean, yes, obviously, like we said, there's the planting seeds and doing other stuff, but overall, I feel like Danny is someone who wouldn't turn on Nicole and put her on the block up front. Maybe she'd vote her out, maybe, but like she's one person that she has on her side, and I feel like Nicole is kind of throwing that away. I feel like she's made some bad moves, and I'm not as confident in her right now. I mean, obviously, who knows what's going to happen? The triple's coming up, next week, who knows? But I just feel like I don't feel as good about her positioning this week. And so I guess, like, I mean, I was a 6 last week. I think I feel like I have to go down to a 5. Like, I mean, maybe I'll just stick with my 6. I know people are like, well, don't you write this down beforehand? No, I'm an in the moment rater, so sorry. And that's why it's always hard when I go first, because I feel like one of my favorite things to do is have you guys give your 2 opposing arguments, usually opposing, and then I get to pick which one of them I agree with more, and which one vibes with what I've been feeling, and then, kind of go from there. But in this situation, I gave Memphis a 7. Sorry, guys. I'm like sitting here like,
I mean, we can go if you want arguments.
Yeah, all right, go ahead. Give me your arguments. Try and convince me.
Brent, what do you think?
Well, here's the thing. I understand that she's definitely stepping on her toes by targeting Danny, being okay with Danny going. But honestly, I feel like Danny is so radioactive at this point that it's probably in Nicole's best interest not to fight that at all. So I don't really particularly feel like that's a terrible move on her part. Now, if she gets lucky and Danny stays in the house, all the better. Add to that the fact that I do feel like that people are looking at her as a potential to take at least to the Final Four. And though she hasn't had good luck with the competition so far, I still feel like she's got it in her to win one of these down the stretch here, especially when they tend to favor people more like her. Hopefully they're not that physical. What did I give her last time? I gave her a 7 last time. I'm going to stick with my 7. I feel like Frenzel's got it in her to make a run at this, and I don't see her leaving on Thursday. I know there are a few scenarios, maybe that she could end up on the block, and possibly something could go horribly wrong, but no one's really coming for her. Everyone else has other targets in mind, like Memphis or Christmas or Danny or David. No one's really coming for Franzel. And she's got Cody in her corner big time. Mm-hmm. He's been the kingmaker in this season.
That's true.
Yes. I'm not quite a 7. I am dropping her from the 7 down to a 6. And the reason for that is that there are Tyler and Christmas in particular. They want Danny out first, but we talked about it. Danny's very likely to go on Thursday. And as soon as she does, Christmas and Tyler are both gunning for Nicole next. Nicole is the next big target for them. That's not good for Nicole, especially because with Danny gone, Nicole has basically nobody except for Cody. Now, the one thing that Nicole has in her favor that Memphis now doesn't is that Enzo seems to be Team Nicole, that he is putting his eggs in the Cody and Nicole basket instead of the Christmas and Memphis basket, and that's good for Nicole. But beyond, Enzo's not willing to stick his neck out to protect Nicole. Tyler was just talking to Enzo about, like, Nicole has to go. It has to be both Danny and Nicole. And they were talking about the triple. They were talking about, like, this week, let's get Kevin, Danny, Nicole, all 3 of them gone. And Enzo was like, that's what I'm saying, yo. That's it. So he is not going to stick his neck out to protect Nicole, but I don't think he'll go after Nicole, which is important. So that's okay there. But, like, just her end game in general, without Danny, she has very few people left. She's completely lost Christmas. She doesn't have Tyler. She doesn't have Memphis. She definitely doesn't have David. I think David will go after Nicole too. So that's where the danger is. she's higher than Christmas and Memphis because she's less likely to go in the triple, and she's less likely to go after the triple. She's more likely to squeeze into the end game somewhere, where she may be able to pull off what she was able to do in Big Brother 18, but not that much higher because she's still fairly likely to go, and she still has a pretty tough path to the end, especially with like who she's going to be sitting next to in the final two. So that's where I'm at with Nicole. Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you guys, but I mean, I guess I'm tempted to go to the 5 just because I do think Danny's going out this week, and I think that is bad for Nicole. I think number 1, she loses an ally, and number 2, like you said, I think that she's next in line for some people. So I am a little concerned about that. I know she's got Cody, but Cody's got so many other people that Nicole doesn't really have. I mean, yes, tangentially or whatever, people are like, I'm not going to go after Nicole or whatever, but she doesn't have anyone. And for the longest time, I did think that she had Danny. And now I'm like, okay, number 1, maybe she doesn't have Danny. And number 2, Danny's probably going anyway. So like, you know, what does that leave her with? So yeah, I'm going to give her a 5. Hopefully she can pick it up next week.
There you go. Finally, let's talk about Tyler. Brent, you can go first with Tyler.
All right. So I gave Tyler a 7 last week, and I was between a 5 and a 6 this week. And I will tell you the reason why, because he, as I alluded to earlier on the podcast, he has been so laissez-faire, or as RuPaul's Drag Race would say, flazé-da, about his endgame possibilities here. He's absolutely doing nothing. I'm still so bummed that he apparently learned the wrong lesson from Big Brother 20 in that he didn't want to make too many final 2 deals with people. And that wasn't his problem on Big Brother 20. It really wasn't. And again, he only lost by 1 vote. Like, come on. Like, it wasn't like it was like a massive mistake. And he's done none of that this time. I don't think there's one person besides Christmas, but she's, you know, repelled from him because of his apparent quit during the Bailey week, that was thinking about or was under the impression that they were going to the final 2 with Tyler. Cody doesn't think that Tyler's going to take him to the final 2. Enzo doesn't think Tyler's going to take him to the final 2. These people are, if they're not coming for him now, they're going to be coming for him soon. He hasn't done anything. Now, he could turn it on, but the guy that I've seen over the past 3 weeks is just not the guy that I saw 2 years ago and was literally impressed by and gave multiple 10s to. So, man, like, I had to go with a 5 in the end, and I really can't believe I'm giving Tyler a 5. But he's just so non-responsive to the immediate goals that need to be in front of him.
It just seems like he doesn't really care at all, which, you know, that sometimes happens. But I feel like we've been saying for the longest time, like, okay, maybe Tyler will turn it on. Like maybe next week he'll like pick it up and he'll figure it out. But I just feel like if he were to turn it on, he could do amazing. And I mean, we saw him in his last season. It was amazing. But I feel like this season he's kind of lost interest and kind of just doesn't really want to deal with it. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't see the end game for him, but you know, maybe he'll come up with something after this week. I don't see him leaving in the triple necessarily. So maybe he'll pick it up. But at this point, I'm going to have to change my 7 to a 6.
All right. I also went with a 6 for Tyler. And I also considered a 5 this week, Brent, that I know I was a 6 last week. And I keep saying that, like, he's running out of runway, that he needs to start to pick things up. And I kind of feel like this week he did start to move. But it was just enough to like maintain the 6. Like for me, if he stays put, his rating is going to slowly go down because he's running out of room. And this week was like, you know, the ground is falling out from behind him, and he's just been sitting there in a car as the ground falls out behind him. And then he looked back and he's like, oh, look, it's coming at me. All right, well, I'll start the car. I'll start moving. He's like barely keeping out in front of it right now. And those things are, he seems to have won David back over. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good for him. He's losing Christmas, but he hasn't like completely lost Christmas. And if Memphis goes in the triple, which is fairly likely, he'll really have Christmas. So that's good. So those are two things. He still has Enzo not wanting to go after him yet. He seemingly had Danny going after Christmas instead of him. Not sure if that's still the case, but it's what I've got right now. So with all that said, he's just out in front of it right now. He's still alive. He's still, honestly, one of the more likely winners after Cody and Enzo, but he will need to keep playing hard. I think his ideal scenario is Memphis leaves in the triple, Danny leaves in the triple, and now he's able to pull in Christmas to go after Nicole. He's able to pull in David to go after Nicole. They both put up Nicole and Cody. And like, if he locks in those three at the final six, like that's a pretty good place to be. And that's not an unreasonable scenario. In fact, that's one of the more likely scenarios. It's just a matter of, can he maintain that position? Can he really keep David? Can he really keep Christmas? And can he win? Can that team win the competitions needed to face off against the Cody, Enzo, and Nicole team? And I think it's possible. I think it's there. I see a path. But he's got to start playing to get there, and he's got to have the right triple outcome to get there. And so, we'll see. 6 from me. The audience feel good about Tyler. They feel better about Tyler than we do. They gave him a 7.
Makes sense. I feel like the audience won't really go below a 7 for Tyler. Have they ever?
I'm not sure if they have.
Christina, check it out.
I've got
Report
everything here. Tyler, he did get a 6 in 1 week, and he got a 5.
Wow.
From the audience in 1 week.
All right. I stand
Yeah.
That was the week that... What was happening that week? That was the week...
That's probably the week he tried to quit.
Oh, well.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. I thought you were talking about the season before. When okay, yeah. I thought you were talking about the overall history of Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oops, I'm still... There we go. So there it is. That's the stock watch for the week. That's what we have for you. We'll see where the leaderboard goes. But in the meantime...
I forgot what I bought, by the way. I have no clue.
I know. I forgot too.
Well, we'll find out. I didn't forget.
I feel like I bought Christmas. I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be a good week for me, but that's
No,
fine.
it's not a good week for any
You always
of us,
say
I don't
that.
think.
No, this one really. I lost
right?
money this week. I for sure lost money this week.
Did anybody's rating go up? It looks like no.
No.
So it looks like everyone went down.
Nobody went up. Yeah.
Down. Nobody went up.
Some people stayed the same though.
Yeah, like Cody, for instance, got a 9 from us, and he got a 10 last week. He'll still make money in the stock watch because we're rating them from 1 to 10, and it goes into a formula based on what their rating was last week and what their price was last week. Cody will still make money. He's just not going to make as much money as he would have if he had maintained his 10.
Oh yeah, so it looks like Cody and Nicole both made money this week, but everybody else lost money. So
that's what happens when a triple comes.
Yeah, seriously.
This is going to be a rough week too with trying to guess the triple stuff.
Oh boy.
All right. Well,
everyone's just going to buy Cody.
We'll see. We'll see.
I thought about buying Cody.
All right. Here's the leaderboard has been updated.
Ooh, yay.
Liv back in first place.
Wow.
Yay,
with a Nicole
Liv
buy.
Good. Liv is always.
And where have I gone?
No. Oh no. Taryn, you're gone.
Where are you at, Taryn?
Let's
Taryn's
scroll
just
down
slowly scroll through every single one until it gets to like the thousands.
No, not that bad.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
41st place. 41st place here.
Yikes, that's a drop, Taryn.
Yes.
I went up like 400 places.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
I went in on Christmas. It was not the right call. Not the right call.
I think I went in on Christmas too, or not all in, but I think I put some on Christmas.
As you do, yeah.
As I always
there's
do.
Taylor Allen, the third placer in Big Brother 21, just
wow.
under me there.
I purchased Nicole stock and I have $661, and I am ranked 685 right now. And I'm in the top 25%.
Top 25%
Yay.
from Nicole. That was the best buy this week.
That was, yeah, good job. You're probably higher than me now because I don't think I did so well this week.
Melissa still above Brent in the top 10%.
Good
job. Wait, what did I do? I did buy Christmas.
Let's see here. This week you
bought Enzo. Oh, you got Tyler, Enzo, and
I gave up
Christmas.
Nicole.
You bought one Tyler. You sold Nicole and you bought Christmas.
Ugh, what an idiot.
But your holdings on Tyler and Enzo are keeping you in it.
Thank God.
So there you go.
I have to beat Melissa.
I sold Nicole, and I was like, she's I gotta get rid of these little stocks, and turns out that's what I should have kept. Ugh.
I guess so. I guess that was it.
Anytime I try and do anything creative, this is what happens. I should just leave it, set it, and forget it. That's my stock watch advice. If you want to get in the top, 600 people, that's what you have to do is just do nothing. If you want to get in the top 1%, I can't help you with that. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see where I go from here. A brief glimpse of the sun there for me. All right, so that is the stock watch. Let's talk through some of the other questions on the survey. How do you rate the feeds the episodes this week? Last week it was a 5.1. This week a 4.9. People are not super happy. How do you rate the feeds this week? Last week was a 4.3. This week a 3.5.
Ooh, is that the lowest it's ever been?
Might be.
Yeah, that sounds pretty low.
Yeah, last week the season as a whole was a 4.6. This week it's a 4.5. So not too much there. I asked you to rank the players from your favorite to your least favorite. Not going to be too many surprises here. But you've got Enzo on top, followed closely by Tyler. Who do we think is in third?
Oh, sorry.
David?
Yes.
David is correct.
Yes, that's a great call. Wow.
Yeah. David, who was 6th last week, and
the longer he stays, the higher he'll I think.
I think Rob has it right. By the end of this, we're gonna be praying for a David win or something.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just feel like it's if David can survive these next few weeks, I feel like people are gonna be. I mean, it's the whole underdog thing. I mean, even if he wasn't doing well, the whole beginning half of the season, I think that if he's the one remaining underdog and he's the one remaining outsider, I just feel like everyone's gonna want to root for him to do something and do well. So that's what it looks like, unless he goes out this week. Who knows?
So how's this for interesting, right? This is week 8. Week 5, David was third to last, above only Nicole and Christmas.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Week 6, he was fourth to last, only above Memphis, Nicole, and Christmas. Week 7, he was 5th to last, above Danny, Memphis, Nicole, and Christmas. And then this week, he jumped over Kevin and Cody to get to third place overall. Wow. So he's been slowly climbing the ranks over the last few weeks.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Soon he'll be number 1.
So Cody is there after David, followed by Danny, then Kevin, Memphis, Nicole, and Christmas at the bottom. I asked strategically, who should Cody have targeted this week? Well, everyone said Kevin. And by everyone, I mean 55% of the people.
Right.
I mean, what else is he gonna do, really?
Yeah.
Christmas was in second place, 17%. Not sure I completely agree with that, but yeah, I think Kevin was the right call. How do you feel about the replay power? Scored 35 out of 100.
Terrible.
Yeah. I'm surprised it got that high.
I couldn't even believe that either.
I mean, maybe it got that high just because they were it didn't really do anything.
That's
so it's
true.
fine.
Yeah, Taryn, these are your voters.
Yeah.
Remember that. Yes.
Well, we'll question that when we get to the third of these.
Okay.
How do you feel about the prizes twist? 63 out of 100.
Well,
I actually really liked it.
I like the prizes twist, but I wish, and I know you guys have been over this, and everyone's talked about this ad nauseum, but I wish it was the graveyard one where, you have the option to pick the prizes, take the prizes, don't take the prizes. People aren't seeing what you're doing. I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like the way that things panned out, and especially like the HOH, which we've already seen, you know, and we're going to see the veto, but like the HOH was so lame, and I hate those golf ones. They're just so boring to watch. Like, it's just like, there's no anything to it. It's like, I don't like to play mini golf on my own, and I definitely don't like to watch people do it.
I like the mini golf.
I don't know. It's not for me. Maybe you're just into golf. I'm not into golf. So it just doesn't interest me at all. And then the fact that there was just like a prize available was kind of just like, I don't know. It's I guess I like the idea that they had the option to pick going for the prize or going.
I love
for
that
the
HOH.
HOH.
Yeah.
Like, I do like that, but
and especially
I do
during
feel
the
like
veto too. For David to go for the 10,000, I love the fact we didn't even talk about this. I just love the fact that he totally bamboozled Enzo and just went straight for the 10,000 right on the first one. And Enzo was like I was expecting him to like go, and then like once he was out, then I could have gone for the $10,000. Like once the two nominees were out, then I could have gone for it. David said, "Fuck that, I'm going for it now."
You just know that Enzo is just like $20,000 I could have had this week.
Right? Oh.
Man, that's so crazy. But yeah, I mean, I do like this sort of twist, because I do feel like it influences the game, but not in like a bad way. I feel like if anything, like it shows people like, okay, what do you really want? Like, do you care about the game, or like, do you feel like you're in a good enough position to go for a prize versus winning HOH? And I do feel like it benefits the people who are in the minority or in trouble or whatever, because they're not going to go for a prize. Well, except for David, but normally they're not going to go for a prize, and they're going to have more ability to win versus a normal week. So I do like it overall. If we're going to talk about twists, like this is an interesting one, and I do think that it's fun. I just wish that I really do like the graveyard style competition, so I do wish that was included, but you know, whatever.
All right. I asked, how do you feel about the looming triple eviction? And this is where my voters apparently betrayed me.
They betrayed you.
They're so fed up with the season, Taryn.
58 out of 100, which is still a failing grade, but it's above 50, and that disappoints me, audience.
Look, I think if this was on any other season where I think people were really like enjoying the gameplay or enjoying the people or whatever it was, I think we would see less people enthused about a triple eviction. But I think in this situation, when people are kind of like, let's get more people out so we can see more fun stuff. Like, I just feel like that's probably reasoning behind it.
Melissa, you know what it is. Obviously. Paid shills.
Oh,
CBS is
definitely
paying this audience to give a better score to their triple eviction. Their opinion doesn't matter because it's obviously paid for. Let's move on.
CBS is like, okay, guys, we cannot have a bad rating on Taryn's poll. It just cannot happen. So, you know, they had to hire a bunch of interns.
All right. Who do you want to be evicted this week? 72% say Kevin. Not surprising.
Yeah.
Who do you want to win HOH next week? David with 35%. Followed by Tyler with 28%. Only 7% said Christmas. And while next week is not the optimal time for Christmas to win, like I said, I do see Christmas as the only person who could theoretically take out Cody. So I'm actually like, I wouldn't mind seeing a Christmas win. Rank the players. So we're finally doing the jury stuff. I forgot to do this last week with Ian. But every week I'm going to ask you guys to rank the order in which you think each jury member is most likely to vote for somebody in the final two to the least likely person they're going to vote for. So that means that the person you put at number one is the person who the jury member will vote for no matter who they sit next to. The person at number two is the person they will vote for no matter who they sit next to, unless it's the person from number one, and so on and so forth. So I asked about Ian. Who is Ian most likely to vote for in the final two? Do you guys what do you guys think, and what do you think the audience thinks?
I think that he is most likely to vote for Nicole if she's actually at the end. But I think Tyler is probably a close second because he was warning people, hey, this guy's really good. And like it'll be the ultimate form of, told ya if he actually votes for him to win the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Now, the audience says Nicole number 1, followed extremely closely by Cody number 2.
Interesting.
Followed extremely closely by Tyler, number 3.
Yeah.
That basically the 3 of those are a toss-up, and I think that's fair.
I think I'm not totally convinced of the Cody thing. Ian, sorry, I lost his name for a moment. Ian has shown no animosity toward Cody, in my view, but. Oh, sorry. Were you going to say something, Terry?
Well, he's really talked him up in the exit press. That's
okay.
that's
I haven't
where
read I haven't read as many as those. But I still think he would vote for the other 2 people over Cody. But we'll see.
I think it's possible. But I do think that Cody is definitely up there with a shot. I would probably say, like, I don't even know. I think Tyler, Nicole, Cody, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah. Depends on how Nicole handles it and how, like, what Davon is saying. So I don't know. But then the audience said Enzo, followed by Danny, then Memphis, Christmas, David, and Kevin. I think David and Kevin probably in the right spot there. As of right now, just because of the way that he talked about the inferior players being the ones to take him out, that he did not respect their games. And he was so happy that it wasn't the inferior players that took him out, that it was the good players. So it doesn't seem super likely that he's going to vote for them, unless he's like super bitter, which is also a possibility. Christmas being low, he said he was disappointed. He was a little bit bitter at Christmas. He did not like how she handled that conversation. Memphis being lower than Danny. I'm not sure about this one. He actually said, he talked a lot about how he appreciated Memphis being straight up with him. Memphis said he was, look, dude, you're smarter than me. That's why you need to go. I'm not sure that Memphis should be this low, maybe a little bit above Danny. Not sure about Enzo. I don't know how Ian feels about Enzo. So I'd be inclined to put Memphis above even Enzo, but who knows? Maybe he doesn't want to reward, the other Renegades member. Anyway, Davon. Davon's number 1, easy. It's Kevin.
Yes.
Followed by David.
By David, yes.
Easy. Followed by Danny, says the audience.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's pretty fair based on what we're hearing, that she doesn't really know the extent to which Danny really screwed her over. She may find out, but as of right now, I think that's fair. Then Enzo, which I think is also pretty fair.
Yeah.
Then Cody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Memphis.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think Memphis was one of the more straight up people with her, and she said that was important. So again, that might do some good things for her. Christmas, pretty low. I agree with that. Nicole tied with Christmas actually down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
I think she would probably do Nicole over Christmas, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then Tyler at the very bottom, which I think is possible, but I could also see Tyler toward the top.
Yeah. It's hard to say because I feel like there's so much time too in between now and then. And also other people are going to be coming out and explaining things to other people and saying like, okay, well, this is what really went down or whatever. So I think that this could be accurate for now, but I think anything could change by the time finale comes around.
Yep. And that's what we got. That's what we got for you.
Nice.
Those are the questions.
By the way, when I heard that what Enzo was doing with, possibly targeting Memphis, I was like, you know what? We need to get Hoffman on here. Hoffman will tell us what the hell Enzo is doing because I have no clue. Like, it's literally one of the most cornball, what the F moves that I have watched recently, mainly because I think so highly of Enzo and what he's done this season on Big Brother. But my God, if he goes through with that. Whew.
I mean, thinking about it, like taking out Matt in season 12 was like great move for Hayden. Wasn't that good for Enzo. But like Enzo kind of like got talked into it because he was like, yeah, big move, let's do this.
I just don't want so many of these people I feel like are going to repeat their performance from their first game. Like, I literally think Danny is going to end up in 8th place again after this season. And I don't want Enzo to end up in 3rd place. I really don't. I don't want him because, like, and he's possibly going to go after somebody in Memphis who will take him to the final 2. And Memphis could win at the end and take Enzo to the final 2. Not that Enzo is not capable of doing it himself. Obviously, he is this season. But, it's always nice to have, a backup plan here or there,
Definitely.
So we'll see. Yeah.
All right. Well, any final thoughts, Melissa?
I'm very excited for this triple eviction. It's going to be definitely an interesting night of television. We'll see, if it makes for interesting week next week, but for now, at least, I'm looking forward to it. And also something else to consider that we didn't bring up was the OTEV curse. So, that's something that we need to think about when thinking about Cody's, likelihood to win.
Cody should have been a 3 this week.
Yeah, we should have all just been like, oh, well, this guy's not
it's
winning.
Done.
It's over. He's a 1. He gets the paddle. No, but for real, I'm very excited for this Thursday episode. And we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes.
I can tell you that I'm really thankful for the LFC Roundtable being a little bit earlier tonight and going over, because we were early because of the presidential debates, because a lot of my friends were literally like texting me during this wetting the bed for like the first half hour of the debate. And now everybody seems to have calmed down a little bit now that we're winding down here. So this is perfect for me, Taryn.
It's exactly how I planned it.
Yeah, I like it.
It's intentional.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you this week. I'll, of course, be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today and tonight on the Big Brother 22 live feeds. We will also be live tomorrow night with a recap of the veto episode of Big Brother 22, where we will see the OTEV happen. We'll see David take that 10K. Can't wait to see that. And then Thursday, I'll be live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taryn Armstrong, to talk more about the stock watch and how you can lose a bunch of money going in on Christmas. And I'll also be streaming live during the triple eviction to watch with you guys and hang out and chat about what's going on. And then we'll be live after the triple eviction to recap what's been going down and what happens. So check it all out. Brent, where can people find you?
They can find me at One Lucky Gay. That's one spelled out, ONE. And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, if you still got it, whatever, I'm One Lucky Gay across all platforms.
I hate when because normally I ask people where people can find them, but sometimes I forget and do that during this podcast, and then I get sad because I don't get to go. And you can find It's Melissa. You can find Melissa at It's Melissa with 3 A's.
Yes.
3 of them.
And I'd also have a plug.
Well, there you go.
This Saturday, I'm going to be doing a podcast with Liana and Lita and who else is that?
Yeah, I heard about
Women of RHAP, essentially, is what it is. And it's going to be talking about gender and reality TV. And we're also going to be doing a text banking thing where we tell people to vote, and it should be fun. It's like going to be more low-key, more Zoom-y instead of just like, us talking at people. Hopefully people will be able to like come in, chat with us, etc. Maybe bring up some points or different examples of like women in TV. And, I'm very interested to talk about Nicole specifically, and, whether women can be considered like masterminds. Cause I do feel like that's something that we always end up kind of discussing. So, and also why the Women's Alliance can't work.
Right.
Why can't it work?
Melissa, I'm curious, while we're on that point, has your overall opinion of Franzel changed this season for the better? Because mine certainly has. I'm actually more positive on her, having like really watched her, because I was in and out a little bit sometimes with the feeds on 18, and this one, like, I've watched every moment, and like, she's good, man. She's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I am more impressed with her because I do feel like, at least at the time, I wasn't that impressed with her in Big Brother 16, and then Big Brother 18.
I meant 16, by the way. I meant 16, but go ahead. Yes. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wasn't very impressed with her in Big Brother 16, and then Big Brother 18, I was like, well, she's not doing anything. Like she's just getting dragged along. She's not actually doing anything. So I'm not impressed with this. But I mean, she's doing it again. And I feel like she is doing things. Like I feel like I can see that she has this strategy, and it's not one that I ever thought that she was doing before. Like I thought it was all unintentional, but I do think there is intentionality behind all of her moves and all of her decisions. And so while she won't own it yet, like while she won't go in the DR and be like, look, this is what I'm doing and this is why, and I'm like, I want her to be like more like Danny in the DR.
Yeah, we all do.
That's not necessarily happening, but I will say that I am very much respecting her game way more.
Dude, it's the intention. That's the thing. Because people always, you sort of like I watch the feeds in 18 obviously, and but you like as time goes on, you sort of forget part of it, and then it's like people always talk about the fact that she was just in bed with Corey the entire time, or whatever, which is true in parts of it, but not all true. And but I don't remember as much intention as I see from her this time, where like things that she wants to happen for better or for worse, something like getting rid of Ian. Obviously I disagreed with that, but I understood where she was coming from, because Danny wasn't going to support it, and what could she do? But overall I'm really impressed with her game this time.
And you can find the sign up for the podcast on my Twitter. I'll retweet it again because I tweeted it out, but you can also find it at the other girls' Twitters as well. It's Lita, Liana, Mari, and Chantel Francis. I always say Sham Fran on the the thing, so I always want to say Sham Fran or Cham Fran. Like I just can't say it any other way, just because I always see it on Twitter.
Fran. She likes that.
Yeah. And so I was gonna say that earlier, and I was like, that's not right, so I'm not gonna say it. But anyway, so I'll retweet that. Sign up. It should be really fun and also interesting. So it's this Saturday.
There you go. And if you want to find that tweet, you can find it at It's Melissa with 3 A's.
Yeah.
Just 3.
Just 3.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll see you next time.